Hello and happiest of days to each of you folks. I hope this video finds you well and that sort of thing. So for my video game Wednesdays, for you folks where I typically do reviews of older video games, although I have done some that are right after they were released a week or two later because I played like 40 or 100 hours into them, like Planet Coaster 2 a couple of weeks later, or 2.1 Museum a week later, and that sort of thing. So I have done some more recent things, but I typically like to do older reviews and that sort of thing. So I started doing the Baldur's Gate series since I just did Pool of Radiance, and it was heavily inspired. You can definitely tell it. Pool of Radiance week here on the channel. I reviewed the module, I reviewed the novel, and I reviewed the game all in 1 week. And so I thought it would be fun for me while I was doing it to knock out some other ones. So we did the Baldur's Gate series and such. So I started off with Baldur's Gate 1, then the Extended Edition DLC, Siege of Dragonspear, and then BG2, and now BG3. So this is more recent. Let's talk about it. So this was released on Steam on August the 3rd in 2023, just like a year and a half ago, by Larian Studios. They also did the development. They also did production too, so they are both the releaser, developer, and producer too. So this is directed by Sven Vanke. It's produced by David Walgrave. It's programmed by Bert Van Samenter and Blake Maltby. Art is by Joachim Jemmelklex. I'm sure I slaughtered it. I looked it up ahead of time, but I'm sure I slaughtered it. Music by Borislav Slavov rather, sorry about that. Currently for sale for $60 on Steam. I'll link it to you in the comments below in case you're interested in checking it out. So the Steam is very strong with the Vans and such at 96%. Strong stuff. And actually Metacritic is very strong too at 96 out of 100 too. Ironically. Typically it's not that great, not because that's your percentage rather than just, you know, the higher number. So to see them being very similar, kind of like Rotten Tomatoes, it's very interesting. All right, so this is a take on the beloved easier to play series from the easier to play Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, which is much easier than the 2nd edition, which is much easier than the 1st edition. That's everything. It's also set in the Forgotten Realms too. Right, so this tries to be a mature audience only for adults throwback to the BG series and that sort of thing. It's a classic CRPG. It does very well. It makes some changes to the 5th edition rules to get them better aligned for gaming and to make them more balanced, like they have about monks and that sort of thing, which are a little lesser. And actually played monks that I know in 5th edition, how they're just not exactly the strongest character in the world, right? And that sort of a thing. And that sort of a thing. I put about 60-70 hours into it in my first run through, and that sort of thing. I think their intake on the 5th edition rather, is great. I think they do a great job with it. I think the UI, they've put a lot of production value into it. You got a lot of voice actors and that sort of a thing. Pretty much all the characters are voice acted, even the major ones and lesser ones too. I love that. The production quality is talented. Love both lots. But there are a few changes here that they have made that I actually don't like that much. All right. So for example, in the previous ones in the series and in other ones recently released, you have 6-member parties, but here's just 4. I don't like that they dropped the 4. I also don't like that there's only a fewer number of NPCs for you to choose from. 2, I don't like that too. BG2, a lot of people I prefer Baldur's Gate 1 because it had more characters. You could play an evil party very easily with great characters like Shartila and Gigana on the front line, or Dorn in the Extended Edition, and then you could have your in number of thieves like that, like Savannah, that sort of thing, or who's neutral. You could have like I mentioned before, clerics like Vaconia. You had the best mage in the game, in Edwin, the Red Wizard at Hay, right, and that sort of thing. So you could easily have just an absolutely top line party and of evil stuff. It was harder in Baldur's Gate 2. More people like Baldur's Gate 2 than Baldur's Gate 1 because you have the romancing and it's closer, but there actually are fewer companions, which I don't like. Well, there are even fewer companions in this one, right? And so it doesn't make party selection that hard and that sort of a thing. It's very unfortunate right? I prefer for the party selection to be strong, harder to do. I prefer this to have, instead of having more companions, I prefer to have 6 party slots and more companions. Kind of approaching the good parts of the first ones, and even the second one was better than this one in that regard, and that sort of thing. Now, I also feel that Pathfinder is also mature CRPG too, but I think it's a better game, and I also think it's a better mature take too, and it's a better CRPG too. So this is just a 9 out of 10. Sorry, I know that those are out there that they love this game, and I do too. I think it's fun. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. And for many, this is their favorite version of Baldur's Gate. But I think that might be some recency bias creeping in and out. So, for example, let's talk a little bit more about that maturity things, right? And here, the maturity is all about memes. It's all about having shock value, like, oh my gosh, right? It doesn't actually contribute to the story or push it forward in any major ways, like Pathfinder. Pathfinder's maturity, when you find out what happens and what's been happening, and then you're like, oh my goodness. But then you have decisions to make, and that's right, to push it forward. And it contributes to the story. It helps the story forward, right, to find out what's happening, right? Well, rather here, right, it's all about the memes and that sort of thing. It feels like it's just there for appearance. It feels like a modern horror film. It's all about blood packs and shock value and body counts in very weird ways, right? Rather than an actual well done thing where you've got maturity, where you've got the horror there to contribute to the plot, more atmospheric, that builds it up over time. All right, and that's why Pathfinder, to my mind, is a 10 out of 10. I've done a review of it too, and this is a 9 out of 10, if that makes sense for you folks. All right, but there you go. There's my quick little review of Baldur's Gate 3 for you folks. Spoiler free, so please give it some spoiler free too in the comments below, since it's a more recent game. And you want to talk about spoilers, you want to talk about the memes, I'm talking about the don't. We don't want to spoil it, folks. All right, but there you are. And I hope you appreciated my quick little take on the capstone. Who knows if there's going to be more? They made a lot of money from Larry, and they had lots of sales. And actually, Wizards of the Coast that owns the property now bought out TSR, that sort of thing. So they're probably going to be making. It helped them to have a nice little fiscal quarter, and Hasbro. So I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to do this too. All right. There you are. I think they mishandled the mature content. They just tried to make it mature for mature's sake, and so I'm dropping a point for that reason. Right? It wasn't necessary. All right, but there you are. All right, but there. What's your opinion? Your opinion is just as valuable as mine. As a reminder, like I mentioned earlier, I do video game reviews here. I've also do a couple of Let's Play over video games. Right? I'm doing Let's Plays of Evil Genius, the original one from 2004. I've done reviews of everything from Wasteland from the late 80s in the PC game to more recent things like Crusader Kings 3 or stuff like that too. So you can check those out here, all up and down. Those are the block if that's the first stuff. On Saturday I do something I call Serial Saturday, which is dedicated to the forgotten storytelling genres of movies and TV serials that used to be very popular, and really sold these out too. I'm currently doing the Zorro series, so check that out. And then you can also, if you're interested, I've also recently done Tarzan and Buck Rogers. I've also done the first 2 seasons of Doctor Who 2 in the 60s. Alright, so check out stuff too. On Monday I do something, I go back and review older things from RPGs like Dungeons & Dragons or role-playing game or Battletech, the war game, and that sort of thing. So check that out too. Right now I'm doing reviews of earlier modules from Dungeons & Dragons. I'm currently doing Back Me stuff. I've recently done the Hickmans. He's very popular from his Ravenloft stuff, and then his books, and then also Douglas Niles did I've also recently done Zeb Cook, David Cook, who's very, very popular too, and then I've also recently done Gary Gygax's The Keep on the Borderline, so check it out too. Alright, so if you like that stuff, you're going to check that out stuff too. And then the other 3 reviews I do a week are older reviews of things that we are reading, like novels or short stories or novellas sometimes too, or just like, poems or prose poems too, sometimes here and there. Alright, so check those out. So if those 7 older things a week sound like your cup of tea, then great. Welcome to the channel. Have a seat. I think you'll enjoy your time here and take off your shoes. While you're here, why not do the YouTube stuff? Hit the subscribe button, the share button, like, and then hit the bell icon to be notified of my 7 videos a week. But basically just share and watch. Those are the key ways to grow this channel for you folks. As you can tell from the title, as well as all these older things, is the passion of this channel. It's a quote by a French philosopher, Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about them was that they kept us from reading the old ones, right? And it's definitely an older, no, it's not that old as a video game, but you get the idea. You get the idea, right? It's part of a long series that's trying to stand up to it. I think it mostly does well. Alrighty, so there you are. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that times and so forth. But you know, you definitely in our passion for the new video game, in this case, the movies, the new novels, right? And that sort of thing, we sort of forgotten that they're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? So let's check out those giants, right? If you're, interested in, if you're reading the newest, it's not that the novels are bad, they're not, but just in our passion for the new stuff we've forgotten, right? And, if you're checking out the new, whodunit novel, but you haven't checked out an Agatha Christie one recently or ever, or, something by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in the Sherlock Holmes short stories, right? Why not, right? And that sort of a thing that heavily influenced the modern story. Check it out, all up and down the block. All right, so there you are. If you made it here to the end, I just want to thank you so very, very much for just taking some time out of your day and investing it, right, and watching my videos, because we all have so many things that are happening, right, in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions too, right? So the fact that you spent this time with me, that's incredibly humbling, and I appreciate that so very, very much. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.